Hi, I'm Father Anthony Hannon from In Viam Pacis, and this is To Prepare His Way. I'm coming to you from the kennel out at Vicar's Woods. Where's my dog? You can hear him crying. Vicar, what are you doing? You watching me? Good boy. Okay, how do you make sense of everything anyway? All that's going on these days, and how do you keep your peace? What? What do you want? Are you enjoying your life? Do you feel trapped? Um, what is going on with this coronavirus COVID-19 anyway? Now, when it comes to anything in our life, I don't know if you've reflected on this much before, but everything that, as human beings, we try to make sense of things. And we try to make sense of the world. And this begins from the time that we're very little. And our first teachers, of course, are our parents or maybe our siblings. And people grow up and they try to make sense of the world. Much of our knowledge comes to us because we've accepted what other people have told us. And there's nothing wrong with that because there's trustworthy individuals, again, hopefully our parents, and hopefully our teachers, and hopefully our friends. And then, of course, there's bad influences as we get older as well. But so much of what we believe, someone else told us, and we accepted it because it made sense and it fit in with the worldview that we were building. Our faith is a bit like that. Of course, it's everyone's responsibility, each person's responsibility to develop that personal prayer life, that personal dynamic relationship with God. And yeah. Anyway, we're in this crazy situation right now in the world where most people are under house arrest, told to stay inside. For some, can't even get out for a walk, some places in the world. It's really, really sad. I used to say I was the most blessed priest in the whole diocese. That's what I used to say when I had that little country parish, and I was there for 10 years. And then when I left, I had to tell the people, of course. And so I told them that I was leaving. And the way I did it was I told them that for 10 years I've been saying I'm the most blessed priest in the whole diocese, in the whole archdiocese. And effective, I guess it was August 1st, Father so-and-so was going to be the most blessed priest in the whole diocese. But listen, I want to tell you a little secret. Well, I guess it's not going to be a secret anymore. I feel like I'm the most blessed priest in the whole world. I tell you. Now, a lot of priests wouldn't want to be in my position, wouldn't want to be living in solitude for the most part, this semi-hermit, semi-eremitical life, depending on the goodwill of people like yourselves who give donations so they can pay the bills as I try to establish this retreat center. And I know some of you have reached out to me through the contact page at In Viam Pacis, and I've responded, and I do hope that you can come on retreat very, very soon. Of course, a few things are going to have to come into place, but I think it'll be happen. I think it will happen, and you can come out and enjoy this beautiful place as well, and get quiet and listen to the voice of God. Anyway, back to the COVID-19. There are all sorts of theories about what happened and why it happened, but we can just try to look at the facts, and we can look at the actual number of deaths compared to other diseases. This whole unprecedented lockdown, the closing of businesses, this is absolutely terrible, and it really has to stop. Now, in the meantime, a huge segment of our populations are living in complete fear of getting sick, fear of being a carrier of the virus and then getting someone they love sick, or someone they don't know sick. I'm hearing the birds in the background. This is a really nice day. We've had a strange week, actually. We had, I think Monday morning, it was 1.5 inches of snow I woke up to. I knew it was snowing the night before, but that was a real surprise, that April 13th or whatever the date was, to have snow on the ground. That was very strange. And then for several days it was snowing, but with no accumulation. Now it's all melted. we're up to about 8 or 9 degrees today. So what's that? 16, 15, 47 degrees Fahrenheit. So anyway, good boy, Vicar. Good dog. Are you a good boy? What's wrong? You want some water? Not up, boy. Anyway, I think trying to understand the COVID-19 is not much different. We're listening to people who we trust. And if you're watching the mainstream media and if you trust them, you're going to be in complete fear. And if you trust the government leaders, you're going to be in complete fear. And anyone who's been involved in the pro-life movement knows that the mainstream media cannot be trusted. And I don't trust our government either. And then we look to our church leaders. So many of them I don't trust either, just like you. I don't trust them. It doesn't, I mean, we respect authority, of course. We have the fourth commandment, of course, honor your mother and father, and that includes respect for legitimate authority. But, you know, think with your brain, not with your feelings. And, you know, we should understand the teaching of obedience properly, because if someone, even a legitimate authority, tells you to do something that is wrong, morally wrong, you actually have a duty to disobey. So anyway, a lot of people feel trapped right now, not just trapped in their house, trapped in their various relationships or whatever, trapped in their situation. And this is the octave of Easter. Christ is risen, hallelujah, and he's come to set the captives free. And if I could do anything for you, I'd like to try to help you, you know, receive that gift that Christ is offering us. And I guess it's easy. Some might say, well, it's easy for you to say, Father, you've got a great life. Yeah, you know, a lot of it depends on your attitude. I'm going to tell you, a lot of it depends on your attitude. And a lot depends on the principles that are found in the serenity prayer. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. If I want to live a life of frustration, I will try to change things that are beyond my control. So it doesn't mean I don't try to understand things, but I have choices. I've made a number of choices in my life that I do not regret, and some of you could make the similar choices, but you haven't, and some of you have, of course. But again, I'm not trying to say you're wrong, I'm right, or anything like that. I'm not about whoever might watch this video, or I'm not trying to make comments about people who have opinions about whether this whole business is a chastisement from God, if it's actually God's positive will or not, which of course I don't believe that for a second, because that's not the relationship I have with God. That's not who I know him to be. Which reminds me, well, let's go in kind of in chronological order. When I was a teenager, we used to hang out in kind of gangs. It wasn't like criminal gangs, just, you know, just groups of guys, and then as we were teenagers, some girls. And as we got a little bit older, some of the guys started looking a bit older, and they could go buy beer. And you know, a lot of my teenage years were standing outside in front of someone's house or walking around the neighborhood, and you know, a lot of the kind of joking around, but a lot of the humor was really degrading and insulting. And so at one point I just decided I don't need to do that. I don't need to do that. And I remember we kind of split up in the group, and those who kind of came my way, we went. We started doing some fun stuff. We started going to movies and going bowling and mini putting. We started enjoying instead of just sitting out on the streets, kicking the curb and insulting each other. So that was a really good choice. Of course, those other guys and girls, they did grow up and they did mature, and you know, and I'm sure they're doing quite fine now. But that was a really good choice. a little later in my life, in my early 20s, I was really, really feeling trapped. And I felt trapped because my family wasn't perfect. And I kind of slipped into the family hero role. This is how I understand it now, the family hero role. There's kind of four basic roles we could say that people fall into. One is the family hero. The next one would be the scapegoat, getting in trouble all the time. The next one, the lost child. And then the next one, the mascot. And in my family, there's just my sister and I. So I think we kind of interchange those roles. I can kind of go in and out of those roles. But anyway, I decided to look at alcoholism in my family. And one of the decisions I made after I learned about that was that I wouldn't consume alcohol. And, that kind of put a strain on some of my friendships because some of them were drinkers and felt there was kind of a confrontation. A lot of them didn't, and even some of them were alcoholics. They didn't care whether I drank or not. They were kind of maybe happy because I could be the designated driver or something like that. But anyway, there's another decision. I never regret that, to not consume alcohol. And then, you choose your friends, you choose who you hang out with. And, many of those people back there that I don't hang out with anymore, many of them were good people. And I would have loved to keep in touch with them. And I don't blame them. It's probably more my fault that I haven't kept in touch with them. But, you have to make choices for yourself. Now, around that time, I was heavily involved with kind of the charismatic parish in the city. And that was kind of back in the mid 80s. That was kind of where orthodoxy was, if we could say, in the Catholic Church. Remember that 1985 would be only 20 years after the close of Vatican II, and only 15 years after the the changes to the liturgy, changes to the Mass and everything. So there's a lot of liturgical experimentation going on. I mean, of course, when I'm 22, 23 years old, 15 years was a long time. That's ancient history. But if you're watching this video and you're my age or older, or even in your 40s or 30s, maybe even, you understand that 15 years is actually not that very long. But anyway, I was involved with the charismatics, and that was very good in so many ways. But I got tired of people claiming that God was speaking to them, and they were all over the map. And it seemed to me that the Jesus they believed in was not quite the same as the Jesus I believed in, because their Jesus pulled them in this direction, that direction, up, down, upside down, everywhere. They would pray, "Oh, the Lord spoke to me." And anyway, realize some of you watching this video that you might be involved in charismatic, and it may be very helpful to you. And go for it. I'm just saying, I'm just giving you my story. And I walked away from that, and that also was painful because I walked away from a lot of friends. And but you still have to love people. You still have to wish them well, right? Desire heaven for them, right? But I got kind of tired of that kind of roller coaster, I could say, emotional roller coaster, the charismatic movement, and also the instability of it. And I've watched. So we're going back now, a good 35 years, and I've watched a lot of people who have put all their faith in the charismatic renewal and healing prayer meetings and everything like that. And I mean, quite frankly, for some of them, I feel sorry for them, because if they had gone into 12-step groups like I did, they would have grown quite a bit. But they keep going from event to event, hoping to be healed from their ailment. They're always in the 12 steps. We call it looking for easier and softer ways, eh? But I remember going to an open AA meeting. I'm not an AA member, by the way. I got off the garbage truck before I got to the dump. That's the way I kind of put it. But anyway, I remember going to this AA meeting down in Rochester, New York, and this guy, man, he was a good speaker, and I remember some of the things he talked about. About trying to live healthy and trying to eat but no, so you're trying to drink 8 bottles of water a day and stuff. He says, no problem. He says he used to put down 12 beer in one sitting. He said it's hard to drink 8 bottles of water a day. Anyway, one of the things he said is the elevator to recovery is broken. We have to take the steps. So I thought that was pretty good, about all the easier, softer ways. So anyway, it's another thing that I never regretted, walking away from the charismatic. I mean, I can operate in that setting if need be. I am a diocesan priest, so diocesan priests are kind of general practitioners, I think. So yeah, we can kind of operate in that. But at the same time, quite frankly, I roll my eyes at a lot of the stuff. So anyway, that was a good decision. And then I made other decisions too. For whatever reason, over the years, there was a lot of guys who would tell me that they were same-sex attracted. And I'm not. And I thought that was, these are generally guys who were trying to live good lives. So I thought, and they told me that they were living chaste lives. Only to find out later that they weren't, eh? And so you know what? I don't need that either. So I walked away from that too. So people can call me a homophobe if they want, but I got this little rule up here. I guess I have a few rules up here in Viam Pacis. One is don't feed the animals. Like if you feed the animals, you're banned for life. There's no way that we want to make the wild animals tame. Just all sorts of bad reasons, all sorts of reasons for that. And so that's the one rule. But the other 3 rules I say is there's no booze here, and no dope, eh? And no fags, eh? So leave your alcohol and your drugs and your tobacco products at home, and there you go. And if you can't do that, if you're addicted to that, well, you go get the help you need before you come here. Or if you think you can go cold turkey, then come on up. But these are some of my rules. Anyway, a few years ago, I was really drawn more like interiorly to nature and to solitude. So I started looking for some land for a little kind of personal retreat. And so that's what I did. And I never really planned on doing what I'm doing, but it just kind of fell into place, when you turn your life over to God, and like a lot of good things happen. So I don't regret asking the bishop to leave parish ministry and to exercise my priesthood in this way. So there you go on that. Now, I do want to jump to the COVID-19 and the house arrest that everyone's in and the fear that's going on. So I'm going to leave a link or 2 in the description, and please check it out, especially this interview that Stefan Molyneux is a Canadian philosopher. He's not Catholic, but, try to keep an open mind. He's got a lot of things to offer. He's a very intelligent man, and he's interviewing, I think his name is Dr. Shiva, I think it's his first name. I don't have notes in front of me, so I'm just going by memory. And talking about Bill Gates and all sorts of other connections and the big marketing ploy, and that we're all being played. So that's really what I think is going on with all of this. And not to be afraid, because, do you have some control over yourself, eh? And talk about vaccines and everything like that. And I think what I really think we ought to be doing is talking about these things. And there's no way that I'm going to get vaccinated by one of Bill Gates' vaccines. No bloody way. Well, what if you can't go to the grocery store? Well, then I'm going to live off the land. Hey, I think some of you in your prayers and in the depths of your heart in the last few years, you've been maybe thinking about maybe you should get out of the city. And, now maybe you feel trapped in the city. Well, just think about that. And if this clears, or when this clears a little bit, why don't you consider finding a place that you could live a more simple life, eh? But not everyone is suited for that. Some people need a lot of people around them, and that's okay. And there's a lot of benefits for living in the city. But anyway, okay. Now there's a lot of problems in the church, and I think I'm going to give a little comment on that as well. A lot of people are upset with the bishops, and various bishops are some are worse than others, and and some are fairly good. But we have a lot of expectations of the bishops, and the fact is that a lot of our expectations they're not capable of meeting. And the way I see it is this: for a priest to be considered to be a bishop, has to have lived his priestly life in such a way that he hasn't ruffled many feathers, he hasn't burned many bridges or made any enemies. Um, so this is where I see the whole thing of codependency, and they're people pleasers. That's who they are. Now, some of you are more traditional or orthodox. You may feel slighted by them, or maybe even some priests. You're like, well, bishop's not afraid to confront me. Yeah, I know. That's because obedience is built in with your worldview, and they know that. So, at least on a subconscious level. But anyway, most of the bishops they just don't have what it takes to confront the world. They just don't. They're diplomats. They get along with people. That's why they're bishops. They see their role as being one who's to unite the faithful, maybe unite the whole community, even non-believers. So that's why. And the sooner I accepted that, the sooner I could have peace and let go of my expectations, unrealistic expectations of them. So so that's a big thing with the Serenity Prayer. For those things that ought to be changed, and are within my power to do it. I mean, everything is by the grace of God, of course. I'm not a Pelagian, but for those things that ought to be changed, then change it. But can I accept that there are some things that are beyond my control, and then I'm going to let that go. I might keep it in my mind. There may be an opportunity to kind of play my cards, so to speak, but for the most part, I'm going to let it go because that's a recipe for frustration and unhappiness, trying to change the things that you cannot change. Now, when it comes to the COVID-19 and the evil plots of men, this is not the will of God that this is happening. Permissive will, fine, but if you're going to say permissive will, then you might as well say, well, it's God's will that there's so many abortions happening or murders or whatever. Yeah, he allows it. He doesn't interfere with our free will, but this is not his will. It's not his positive will. So anyway, we need to recognize that and do what we can to hold people accountable who are doing these evil things. And to the extent that we cannot, then we can at least have some control over our own situation and say, I'm not going to get vaccinated, or I'm not, and I think that an underground, so not only underground church, but underground economy will make it work. Though there's lots of people who wouldn't want to get vaccinated or microchipped like a dog. My dog is microchipped, hey, in case he gets lost. But what are you, a dog? You're not going to get you're not a cat. No bloody way. But there's a lot of people thinking that way, and people will find a way how to eat and how to get their teeth cleaned and how to you think every doctor is going to say, yeah, everyone get vaccinated? No, you'll find your way. Now, as to the why would Bill Gates and Dr. Fauci and all these others, why would they do that? Now, one of the ways that I look at it is, as you know, is through codependency. So I see it as unresolved childhood issues. Wouldn't surprise me that nerdy Bill Gates was kind of picked on as a kid, and that he didn't like sport. He wasn't good at sports, and he gravitated to computers, and So he's pretty happy that there's no sports, you know. I had a girlfriend once that she resented every time I watched sports, you know. And you know, then I found out, well, one of the reasons why was because her dad and brothers, you know, her and her sisters, and I don't know how many sisters she had, and mother, they felt abandoned by because of sports. So she had this thing. She didn't like me watching sports. Well, hey, it's a good thing I didn't marry her, right? So anyway, anyway, Bill Gates probably pretty happy that sports is shut down, and I suspect probably religion was used against him as well. So he's probably pretty happy that there's no church services. So I think that there's things unresolved. So you got big unresolved childhood issues, big control. Then you got a lot of money, wielding power, all of that stuff. He's probably paid off a lot of people. And I don't know. Are there any like honest judges out there? Can he? Will the people get a fair trial against Bill Gates? I don't know. Um, but anyway, let's see. Where am I now? So that's one way of looking at it. You know, when you look at Dr. Fauci, right, and his involvement with AIDS and the HIV/AIDS in 1980, in the 1980s, and how the cure was worse than the disease, and now he seems to be repeating it. We have a saying in recovery: repeat or recover. You have two choices. You can recover, you can deal with it, or you can just repeat it. And I think this is one of the things we're seeing. And I did some reading some time ago, probably when I was doing my undergrad in philosophy, and about criminology. And one theory about criminals, how they get caught, is one theory is that they are involved with a hide and seek game with their daddy. I know it sounds kind of weird, but you know when you're a kid and you played hide and seek, if you, hide and seek, and you found a really good hiding place, and you know your friends are looking all over for you, they can't find you, what do? You cough or you throw something across the room, you give them little clues. So this is one of those theories when it comes to criminology about why some criminals repeat themselves, and even if they weren't in jail before, they keep leaving clues. They kind of want to get caught. So that's one thing. And then there's the other, which is, you know, again, comes from someone I respect her intellect a great deal, and that's Ann Barnhardt. And I can leave a link in the description for some of her talks or explanations about diabolical narcissism. So I think that could be at play as well. But you know, maybe we'll never know really why. I mean, at the final judgment, we'll know why about all sorts of things. But um, at some point when I was dealing with alcoholism, um, I had to kind of stop worrying because sometimes it's a debate. Is it a disease? Well, if you say it's a disease, then they're not responsible for it. And are they really alcoholic? You shouldn't judge people. You shouldn't label people. There's all this stuff going on. You know what? Bottom line is just look at the facts. This person drinks. The personality changes. It's miserable. That's all I need to know. I don't have to put anyone in a box or label them or anything like that. And so with the COVID-19, once you realize what's actually going on, this is part of the truth. It will set you free. And then you can make some choices. You can make some choices about your own autonomy. Your own autonomy. So anyway, there you go. I don't know if this is a very long video, and I don't even know if I'm gonna publish all this or just break it up or something else. But um, I just wanted to share that stuff and maybe help some of you deal with the stress of all this. I think as things go forward, probably one of my choices will be to avoid people who are. I mean, I'm a priest. Anyone comes to me for help, of course, you know, but I have choices of who I hang out with, where I go, and I don't find it very pleasant being around people who are afraid to shake my hand. Like if you're afraid to shake my hand, um, yeah, just stay in the city with your mask on and your gloves. Okay, Almighty God bless you, the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. In Viam Pacis, into the way of peace. The truth will set us free. And remember, God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Amen.